Welcome back to the Money Hill presented by the Best of 3 Network. This week we will be recapping the Subliners' amazing Major 1 victory, teams who showed up and fell short along the way, and some spicy future storylines to look out for. I am, of course, your host, Scoot, and unfortunately Nikki couldn't make it to the podcast this week, but I'm back with BMB, Big Money Blivs.
That's right.
Yeah, back-to-back missing for him, but BMB, how are we doing today? I've got you here, so.
Yeah, I've gone back. I've watched some of these VODs. You know, it's a hectic game, and we had two teams in the final that we did not expect to be here. At least, I don't think most people expected them to be here. It was thrilling nonetheless. You know, I think the scoreline, I know Nikita wishes he was here to make this point, which is a point that I think we would all make, which is the final scoreline not indicative of how close that match was. I mean, like, first game hard point, you had freaking Surge with 248 to, like, New York's like 210 or something, and then they come back. You know, they hold down the restaurant, which is a notorious place that is hard to break, and so they flip it 250 to 248. S&Ds were close. I mean, Subliners are just world class at control. So control, like
I think the restaurant hill is interesting because I think you go into it and you're like, okay, it's not super difficult to break. It's like pretty hard to break.
Well, they held it earlier,
but once the time starts operating, once the time starts operating against you, you start making like a lot of mistakes that you wouldn't normally make in like a first rotation.
I think there's a lot of choke points, and it's easy to like cover for each other.
There are. If you go the wrong ways, like if you run into the right angles, then you're
and I think as a team, it's easier to like cover for your team, right? So it's easier to trade.
Way easier.
I think what's really obnoxious and amazing, and something that I'm going to be looking for, is Subliners just utter dominance on control. This is a team that was like 3-0ing the shit out of everybody that they played. And so when you go in to a game already up, like in a best of 5, 1-0, you only have to win 2 more. It's a hard point in an S&D, or 2 hard points or 2 S&Ds, and you're winning the game. And so that's a big advantage.
Yeah, they dominated control all weekend. That goes without saying. Like, right when they got to bracket play, it was pretty much final. Subliners were not losing control. 3-0'd Rocker in group play, came out on top. And then they fell into the lower bracket, went on an amazing run. Obviously, we've seen a lot of that recently.
Well, importantly, they lost to the freaking Surge. And that's what put them into the lower bracket. And so, you know, as the great philosopher Plato has once upon a time said, it's really hard to beat the same team twice. And so you see Plato's wise words coming to fruition here in the second repeat of those two teams playing each other.
It's also, I mean, early enough in the season to where I think you lose a series and you're able to rebound better than if you beat a team, especially coming from an upper bracket situation. Yeah. There's not a lot of advantage to being an upper bracket, as we know, in the current CDL state. Hopefully that changes in the future. Hopefully you get more bracket reset situations.
Yeah, I still don't get that.
It's a huge gripe for the community, and you see it all the time. Like, why is there no bracket reset? All this stuff. Why are we not playing 2 best of 5s instead of like an entire best of 9 series?
So what happens if in the 2 best of 5s they have to beat you in both best of 5s? If you win one, your win.
Yeah, and that's what resetting the bracket is. You win the first best of 5, and then it's just level playing field. You're playing a straight up best of 5. That decides it all.
Best of 9, like, you think that's enough games to give any team that's actually the better team enough time to come back and win?
I mean, it was 7 this time around. Best of 9 works when you get the Rocker situation where they come back 4-0 down. That was wild. I mean, that's insane, and it's like great for the community and everything, but
that still haunts me.
Obviously, as an Ultra fan, that's a tough one to get over, eh? I mean, as much as we can say, and I've been pretty vocal about this on Discord and I think in podcasts as well, we do have a lower skill gap this year. That goes without saying. And I think if you were listening to the podcast last week, you had a pretty good opportunity to make some money if you are a bettor. In that the insight there was a lot of these lower value teams in terms of futures look pretty good because realistically, anyone can win a major right now.
Correct.
And that's not to take away from Subliners at all. I think they did what they needed to do considering the circumstances, and also were extremely well coached in control, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think that became the most important game mode for them. Their hard point was solid. Actually, their hard point was really good. Their S&D was solid enough to maintain. And they get a free map every series, as you said. I mean, so now you only got to win 2.
Which is a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage.
Yeah, and I mean,
you're 20% up immediately.
I also think the thing to take away here, MVP is Kismet. I would have also put Priest up there for his performance the entire tournament.
For sure. Priest was an animal.
So, I mean, shout out to those two guys because they're pretty notoriously known as role players. And we know that Priesta, problem with the Priesta situation is we've seen him struggle for a couple of years now. Back on top. Like, this is a way to launch yourself back in the limelight. You see all these Like, last week I'm reading a Reddit thread in the COD Comp subreddit, and one of the comments is like, it was a pretty decent series from Frieza, right? Like, he's sitting around a 1.0 KD.
Sure.
and everyone's like, oh, it's great to see Priest like performing super well, and I see a comment that's like, why is this what we expect out of him? Like, why is this now our high?
Yeah.
And you go from that to then just utterly dominating a major. It was so good to see that turnaround.
Yep.
And I mean, really good for Subliners, really good for their future, of course.
I love seeing these guys come back in a way that they hadn't in the past. The game is kind of super random, and you see how, I mean, damn, people kill people so quick.
I mean, it's frightening.
It creates a lot of excitement, though.
It does create a ton of excitement, but the issue is you don't have those moments where, because of a higher time to kill, you get like a 180 that a guy should have finished off a kill, and that changes the entire map and also the opposing player's composure because they've just gotten absolutely fried, like turned on. That's a thing, though. Like, your mental gets shot for at least like 10 seconds. You're like, how the fuck did I lose that gunfight?
Yeah.
And it's about whether or not you can reset from that, like regain in the map.
It rewards like blind shooting more than it should. Jumping around corners and just shooting because they know that like if they just get one hit on them, then they win the thing.
That's also a huge difference between past CDL games that we've watched, where I think Modern Warfare 2019 had a similar issue with footsteps, where like you'd see a lot of people kind of turning and knowing where someone is just based on their location on the map, whereas Dead Silence prior has been a perk in the CDL. But this game has that issue as well, and honestly, the audio is way too loud for footsteps anyway. Let's talk about our runner-up, Seattle Surge. What are your takeaways here? Because, I mean, my take here is that if you don't get Mac and accuracy going every series, they're never going to win a major. It's just heinous to see how much Sib and Pred have to carry the slaying for that team. And I feel like if Mac specifically doesn't show up, considering the role that he plays, it's really difficult for them to win a series. And I think that definitely came into fruition in the final. They got kind of murdered in terms of the slaying department just across the board.
Yep.
You said it was closer than it was. I agree with that to an extent in terms of scoreline, but at the same time, like, they were just kind of getting fried at certain points.
I mean,
but Mac and accuracy, if they're not there, like, obviously performing better on land for sure, but it's almost a lost cause for them to win a major if they're not absolutely on point.
So what I'll say is, to follow up on just to close the loop, mad props to Nikita. Before the season even started, he had New York Subliners in 7th place. We had him in 10th place. And Nikki had fucking Seattle in 3rd place, which is mind-blowing. I had him in 6th. You had him in 6th. So props to Nikki for kind of getting those 2 calls early. It's not the end of the season, but good initial feel for it. Look, I am so impressed with Pred. He's a sophomore last year, rookie of the year last year. For him to kind of come in,
no sophomore slump.
I have that exact thing written down. For him to just come in and kind of perform the way he has, and not kind of have a little bit of a downturn, incredibly impressive. To your point, I mean, Mac is just such a rock that like you have to get him going. Same with accuracy, and so Sib was about to be the MVP, and so. Had the Surge won, no question, Sib's taken down MVP there, and so
I would agree.
To that point, like, disappointing for those 2 not to get going, but like at the same time, like they made the finals, so I'm not gonna like get.
They did. That's the crazy part.
I'm not gonna,
is that you can slay so much for 2 guys and make a final.
But should accuracy and Mac get going to the point that you're trying to make them? I mean, the CDL have to just like watch out, like be on notice, because that team's going to become nasty.
Is it going to happen for an entire tournament? It feels like I read something also on Reddit as well, and it was like just a funny comment, but it said, I feel like Mac can only play against Faze. And to a point, somewhat true. Like, his numbers against Faze are insane. He matches up really well against their team for some reason, but otherwise, like, pretty disappointing at times. And yeah, they made a final. They came in 2nd, but like, is it sustainable? Like, I
mean, if you can come in 2nd place at every major, I think that's considered sustainable. Like, I mean, no one was questioning Faze last year, and they didn't win a single major.
Yeah, exactly. But you got to come in 2nd at every major. Like, I'm asking in terms of, do we think if this was replayed like next weekend, you're getting the same exact result out of Surge? I mean, I don't think that's the case.
I'm thinking you do, actually. I mean, this is a team.
I don't agree.
I mean, this is a team. We've discussed this a lot in group play. They got absolutely destroyed right out of the gate by Faze. So it's like They beat Royal Ravens. They get destroyed by Faze 3-0. And then they beat the LAG Academy 3-0. So obviously they make it to out of the groups. But then when it comes to the bracket, they beat the Thieves 3-0, which is fantastic. They beat the Subliners 3-1, and they beat Faze 3-2. So I hear your point that these are good teams, especially in a game like this that's so erratic. You have to get MAC and accuracy being more consistent. I think that comes. I'm not too concerned about it.
It's going to be interesting when we have kind of all 12 teams playing. Atlanta Faze come in third place. Yep. First tournament was Slasher. I think I'm willing to give them a slight adjustment period here in terms of kind of what's going on. But at the same time, his numbers against Subliners were just not good enough to reach a final, and they didn't deserve to be there. I think that goes without saying. I mean, you can't drop a .62 in a semifinal or in a
semifinal.
Is it a semifinal? Yeah. Semifinal, technically.
Elimination
Lower bracket final. Yeah, exactly. Those numbers aren't going to do it. And I think part of the problem is you just run into a hot Subliners team. That's totally a pretty difficult thing to overcome. Yeah. They're coming off a couple of hot series there. You just come off a loss. It's a little bit difficult, but at the same time, I mean, a lot of people are pointing to this issue of Cellium has a high KD every time they lose. Is there a play style that's not matching up?
I completely agree. I mean, last year, it just feels like Celly, look, who am I to question the composition and the makeup of that team? And I know that Celly won MVP last year, so I have no room to question him as a player. But it just feels like he doesn't really vibe with Simp and aBeZy. It doesn't seem like the group meshes like it used to. And I look at Cellium to be kind of that weird outlier within the group. It's so funny you bring that up. So, look, again, third place, not the worst. They started off a little shaky early on, but this is a LAN team that just slays in this game, and I expect them. Third place will not be their worst. It might be their worst place for any major this year.
No, Faze will win a major this year. I think.
No. Sorry, what I was saying is third may be the worst they do all year in majors.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think they're going to do worse at some point, and it might be worse before it gets better. I don't know what it is, but what we've seen over the years is that Faze has the staff and is willing to put in the time and effort to be good enough
this is
in
all
every
they care
single
about.
game and to be extremely competitive. This is what they care about. And I mean, the call on Cellium is he plays too slow to match with Simp and aBeZy.
Yeah.
To where he has high KD,
thoughtful.
but he's getting
he's kind of cleaning stuff up.
But at the same time, he's getting kills that are almost free to a certain point. But I don't think that takes away from his ability as a player. I think he could pick up the pace and still put up the numbers that he's putting up. It's just a matter of achieving that.
But I don't think it's his play style. He doesn't have that gear, and that's fine. That works for some teams. You don't need but in this game in particular, where it is so fast, he might get exposed throughout the year, and he might get free kills, but the team might not do well because he'll be there a quarter second late, and a quarter second in this game is an eternity.
That is true, but we're gonna have to find out coming into Major 2 in January. We got a little break here, unfortunately, which kind of sucks considering
they're just
the major that we just had.
They're just observing Hanukkah, and I appreciate them for that.
I mean, they're observing a couple weeks more than Hanukkah before we get matches, so not sure that's the exact formula that we're looking at here. I think it's worth talking about. We talked about it prior to the podcast, and it's worth talking about a few teams this week. One of them being your fourth place team, your favorite team, Outtro. I'd like to note that Nikki pointed out in text message before the podcast. He said, "I knew Outtro were frauds. They would bow out of this major." But at the same time, good performances.
Yeah, I'm not
iffy performances.
Bowing out in fourth place to the team that eventually wins. Oh geez, sorry. Would have liked them.
I mean, they got kind of smoked by Faze.
Well, of course, the third place team. So would I like them to have played better against Faze? Yes, of course. But look, I think I have no. I'm not crazy that I don't think Outtro is going to win it all this year, right? If you go back, I mean, I love Outtro and I hope they win it all. I did say that they'd win this major, so it was unfortunate that they came in fourth. But I said they were a third place team at the beginning of the year. behind Faze, and foolishly I said behind OpTic. We'll get there. But look, I think this Ultra team is still quality. They're figuring it out. It's early. A fourth place finish in the first major, honestly, A-okay. I love that. They're in the top quarter of the league, or the top third of the league. It's exactly where I want them to be for a first major. And so I'm very happy with this performance. It's a good beginning for them.
I think it's a good start, but I also I don't know. I still think they're fraudulent at points.
You're agreeing with them?
I think the weak point specifically being Kleenex.
Yeah, I've heard this.
The point being, at times Ultra looked super strong, and I think they looked dominant at points, and they also looked kind of fraudulent at other points. My main sticking point here being the search and destroys over the last two series that they lost. They lost every single one. That needs to improve, without a doubt.
Correct.
And I think we've seen teams ebb and flow with S&D a little bit. So it is entirely possible that they will come back from that. However, last year we saw a single game mode hold them back for, I think, 2.5 months straight. And that is a problem as well. So coaching staff kind of needs to help them figure it out in terms of S&D, and that needs to get corrected quickly, or they're going to be in a kind of world of hurt for a little bit where they're winning respawns, but not necessarily finishing out a series, because map 5, it's going to matter.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, look, super interesting that this Ultra team went from struggling on hardpoint to now being pretty good at hardpoint. Still pretty consistent on control, but their S&D just isn't quite there yet. And so, again, and we saw this kind of last year with hardpoint, it feels like they're just a little slow on the trigger, right? They're just a little too late to get those first bloods. And then being able to turn those advantages into wins. And so, look, this is an Ultra team that I still believe is going to finish the league in the top 3. And so I expect nothing less. A top 4 finish is a great jumping off point, and I would expect to see them kind of continue this performance going into January.
I'll tell you what, big thing for them. Insight will pop off in S&D, and Scrappy has now proven that he will pop off in respawns. First 40 bomb of the year, so shout out to him. Talk your shit, King, as you will. And I mean, that's kind of the energy that Call of Duty needs. So I'm happy to see him frying. It's good for the community.
Yeah.
Good for everyone. Everybody needs a villain,
And Scrappy is just talking so much massive amounts of shit in the group stage. I loved it.
Oh, I mean, it's what we need. It's the root of Call of Duty, is just shit-talking when you're playing well, shit-talking when you're playing poorly. And I think, what was it, Legion? That went up 2-0, and then Clayster said, "You're not winning this."
No, it was Polydrome. It was too good.
No, that was the Spanish one. That was Scrappy, but there was also Clayster talks a decent amount of shit as well, and that's kind of why his name is extremely notorious in Call of Duty. But not only that, but he's obviously a champion.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and now he's retired.
Let's talk about his team though. Las Vegas Legion. I think I made the mistake of saying Paris Legion at least 6 or 7 times this weekend. So I think I owe Clayster now $30 to $35 at this point.
To be fair, it's not your fault. They still have the emblem that is a Parisian emblem.
Yeah, why can't they just change their logo at least a little bit? Hey, listen, top 6 after not winning a map for 7 months, or winning a series for 7 months and breaking that streak. Come to LAN. I said it. This team will perform on LAN.
We both said it. We were so hype on the Legion train. We were all over this last week. To see them beat the Boston Breach was fantastic, and that was just the beginning.
I mean, listen, their respawns still really shaky at points, but we've seen a lot of teams come through and play S&D well consistently across the entire year. Shout out LAG for the past 2 or 3 seasons, and you can see success doing that, and you can also get hot in a tournament in your respawns and just kind of turn up, which, I mean, I think experience reigns supreme here, and Prelude's playing the role well enough to where, Legion are going to be good in S&D this entire year. They're going to be dangerous. Yep. They're adaptable, too, which makes them a huge problem. But, this is just seeing Legion play top 6 is just a let's fucking go moment for me.
It is. It absolutely is. And this is a team that has the veterans to do well. Like you said, on LAN, this is a team that has the experience to do well. And so, look, I don't think Legion are winning it ever. I don't think they're ever going to win a major this year.
No, they're going to win one this year. They're going to win a major.
God,
they might win champs. Honestly, actually, no. OpTic's winning champs. That's obvious.
I hope you're right, but this Vegas team's going to be fun. At the very least, we can say they will be fun all year, and that's the most we can hope for on our last place team.
It's an easy team to root for. That's what I like. That's what I love here. This is reminiscent of past Surge, where like people got behind them a lot, and it just kind of built up momentum for big matches, like when they took down Faze in the one major.
Shulk a miracle run.
I would love to see something like that. I'd love to see a Legion OpTic final. Unbelievably toxic.
Who would you root for?
It's so difficult to pick a side there. No, listen. It's good for the league if Vegas is good. That's all I have to say. I think final notable team worth talking about here before we get into what you want to talk about really badly and what I don't want to talk about at all.
I was gonna say notable is not the right description, so I'm glad you're talking about somebody else.
LA Thieves, I think, fizzled out of this tournament a little bit, and it was slightly disappointing to see. But my sticking point here is that they did this last year. Like, top 6 finish, first major, fell off the boat a little bit, and then they won the next 2. And we all know the story from there. Or they didn't win the next 2. They won the last one and champs. You could be seeing a similar arc for this team. It's
early.
Just a slightly disappointing result, but I don't expect them to really kind of fall off the map. Like, they're good, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think they care yet. I will say beating Florida Mutineers, not overly impressive.
No.
Losing to the Seattle Surge, and then obviously the Outtro. Like, I think the game against the Outtro could have been a little bit closer from the scoreline. Yeah, but like this LA team, like their season. This is the preseason to them still. They might still be drunk on champagne, so I'm not too concerned about it. I think that they're fine. Again, I don't expect this LA Thieves team to win again this year. They're a year older, and the team's a bit on the older side of things. I expect some of these younger kids to kind of come through and start really performing.
I mean, one of the hardest things to do in Call of Duty is to repeat, especially now.
Yeah, 100%. And so, like, the game changes. Guess what? That's going to affect these players, like, because they're still world class. They're still the best in the world. But like those little minute changes like affect everyone a little bit more, and like it changes. The degrees get bigger when you're that tight.
Well, you've also got some notoriously high gun skill players, and as we said, that gap's kind of shrunk a little bit, which takes away your prowess slightly. Even though that was true for Vanguard as well. Like
takes down the advantage a little bit.
They're gonna get hot at some point. They're gonna be extremely dangerous. We know the story there. Same can be said for our green wall as well, which
I think I'm ready to write this team off.
That's early.
I mean, you might be talking about a bottom 4 team.
Here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being an OpTic fan and not having to deal with the good performance in Major 1 and then the fall off the map. And now I just get the second part first.
Perfect. So you're setting this up for massive amount of success. It can't go down any farther.
Well, no, it can't because they didn't make the bracket.
Correct.
That goes without saying.
Classic Florida Mutineer curse that you broke.
Yeah, exactly. I told you.
Yeah.
I said it's worrying that they're playing Florida. It's even more worrying that they had to play them twice. They needed to beat Outtro. That was like their only way out, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, obviously they can get out if they beat Florida, but at some point I saw the matchup again and I was like, oh, this is so bad. This is like not what we needed at all. Listen, I mean they got dominated by Outtro. That goes without saying. Like across the board. It was like pretty disappointing to see. At the same time, I don't expect them to just disappear. That's obviously not going to happen. Like
it might happen. And are you prepared? Are you prepared for a OpTic team that comes in for like 8th or 9th place?
That's not going to happen. Even if they come in 8th and go to champs, I still expect them to finish top 3. If not first.
What if they don't make it to champs?
They're not going to not make champs.
I mean,
I'm willing to bet on that right now.
You've got a washed up scum.
Yeah, I mean not washed up. Go check his numbers. Like let's be clear here.
A retiring scum.
That's
I mean like the funny part, right, is like you look at their stats line against Florida and like everyone played pretty well.
So well. Yeah, listen, it was a 5-game series. Like it was close enough, but
they all played well. Yeah, it was a 5-game series. Brack just kind of went off.
Yeah, Brack popped off.
I mean, and that sometimes that just happens.
Brack is good. That's the thing. Brack's stuck.
He is.
Brack, well, okay, hit or miss. Let's be clear. But he has games where it's like okay, this guy's not missing.
A lot of hit.
Yeah, it's a lot of hit, not a lot of miss.
It's a lot of,
That's for
exactly.
Sure. It's fun to watch too. Like he's just in these places where he needs to get like a 2-piece, and he just, we're on the observers on the other POV, and then Brack just gets 2 kills, and both the guys that he was trying to observe are dead, and now you switch to Brack's POV. Oh, he has 4 kills. Okay, let's move on.
He's got a streak going.
I'm not writing this team off. That's the point.
Well, you are writing them off. You had them in last place.
No, OpTic, not Florida. I don't.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I'm not gonna. I think Florida, second to last, LAG clear last. That goes without saying. Especially right now, that team is
LAG
just not,
clear last.
As of now, yeah, they're gonna struggle a lot as this game develops.
Don't sleep on the Ravens being last.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, that's the thing. We posed the question last week, opened with it.
We did.
Who are you shorter on?
Yep.
Breach or Ravens headed into the major after both going 0-2 second week. Breach probably losing one of the most impactful series for seeding that we had the entire week. And the answer was both. So neither of them make the bracket. Just disappointing to see across the board, I think. Also, I mean Methodz got sick, to be fair, and then Beans had to play.
I mean, Breach lose 3-2 to Elevate. Not great to be losing to a
Elevate's
academy
good.
team. Yeah, they are, but still not great. I mean, Ravens didn't win a game. They go 0-3 to Thieves, 0-3 to Surge. So
that's 2 tough series, but
that
not
is
winning a
2
game
tough series. But
not winning a game is bad, and it also fuels the narrative of Paul X as an onliner, which is a huge mental struggle to get over a little bit. So, I mean, I think it presents a bigger issue than anything.
I mean, at least LAG are beating, Decimate 3-0.
Decimate's not as good as Elevate.
No,
if you ask me.
I will say LAG Academy
but,
going 2-3 against Faze was. Ooh.
I mean, well, I want to get your thoughts on this now. After Major 1, we got a way too early champs prediction here because you know that this game's going to change in the next 2 to 3 months.
Yep.
We're probably going to be seeing different weapons next week.
Yep.
So, who's winning it all? Chris? Way too early prediction.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my guns. It still feels like an ultra year.
All right.
I respect that. It still feels like an ultra year.
I can respect that a lot. I mean, I got to stick to my guns as well. I'm going with my preseason prediction. We know the King finishes on top. Yeah. On top of the throne. Well, it's too easy.
From Rumbles to Riches or from Ashes to Riches?
He also said he enjoys this game more than Vanguard in his latest interview with Hex that got released.
Who doesn't? Everyone enjoys this game more than Vanguard.
Well, Vanguard was shit. I guess it's not hard to replace it with the smaller shit.
I am impressed by New York and Seattle, so I give them more credit. My faith in Rocker has been shaken a lot
for sure,
and
especially on land. But Afro played well,
and I really I was needling you a bit, but I'm quickly losing faith in OpTic, quickly. No. And
I'm not quick to that punch at all. I know Nicky is as well, and he would shit on me right now.
And you're right though, because the season is long, and so this preseason, will not be telling at all. But man, this OpTic team, they have a lot to figure out, and they have a lot of time to do that. But they better start. I mean, Illy, does he have another injury? What's going on over there?
The interesting takeaway from the weekend was Dashy's tweet that said these sub players had people really thinking the M4 was the OP gun, and it was always the Vaznev, which I mean the Vaznev does fry on LAN apparently.
Yeah.
So interesting to see that play out, and we'll see if we get a new SMG next week and also the Scar band as well, because I hate looking at those iron sights so much. They're so ugly. All right, final question.
Yep.
The really interesting one. Well, first of all, does anybody need to make a roster change? If so, who? But there's a bigger question here.
Yeah, I'm not ready to make a call on roster changes, but what's the bigger change? Or what's the bigger question?
There's been, not rumors, but there's been speculation flying around the community that LAG should bring in their academy team for their main team, which is not going to happen considering the contracts that they're paying those guys. Correct. However, it does lend itself to the idea that some of those players should make their way to the stage.
Look, I'm not going to... there's no way
3-2 loss to Faze.
3-2 loss to Faze. They beat the Ravens 3-2 as well. Again, I'm not like, could they replace the Ravens? Yes, maybe. I wouldn't be subbing out like
Ravens don't have an academy team.
Yeah, but maybe the Ravens should be the academy team. What I would say is I'm not ready to pull that trigger yet. Shout out to their players though, but no, I would not be replacing them. I feel like you're an Assault fan.
I mean, my take is
what's your take?
My take is it would just be super interesting if it happened.
Yeah, of course.
It would be really fun to see.
We love drama.
It's fun to see some challengers players. Oh, we love drama. That's what the COD community is all about. They absolutely eat it up. But I think you gotta consider bringing in one of the sub players,
but which one?
Maybe a flex situation for Spart. I would say, if anyone, let me think. For Spart here, Assault's been in the league before.
Yep.
It's got to be Exceed or Joe Deceives.
Yeah.
Like one of those two. Newer names. I feel like it's kind of a rehash storyline. Yeah, it's a rehash storyline in Call of Duty of like a player's already been in Pro League, they come back up, and it's just kind of the same shit again. Yep. So I don't think you can bring up somebody that's already been there, but maybe Diamond Con is worth a shout as well.
I mean, all I'm saying is don't let a preseason LAN event where they're playing on PCs that have that have trash cans over them to protect them from the rain or the water, whatever the fuck is going on there.
That was London, by the way.
Yeah, don't let that affect you too much.
All right, well I won't. But
ASIM might be headed out of the league. You might see Assault traded for ASIM.
It would be. We need more trades. That's what we need. We need
trades.
More trades. Trades are dramatic.
I would love.
That's the real drama. We love trades.
We need a transfer portal, just like in the World Cup.
We need more teams. Yep. More teams. More trades. That's what you need. It's just the cost of entry is too high right now for the league. Buying a spot too expensive. Need expansion. Need trades. But with that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts on all of the topics discussed today in Discord, which will be down in the description below. Just also follow us on Twitter at BO3 Network. Toss a follow there, and then hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed what you heard. You can also hit the bell if you really want the notifications, really want to know when we're posting. But it's pretty much every week around the same time. You should hit the bell if you enjoyed.
But I would also say,
comment section wide open. We respond. Let us know if you hate our takes or love them.
Yep.
Don't really care, but we'll respond and we'll let you know.
We'll go aggro.
I either agree. Yeah, I'll get aggressive in the comment section a little bit. I'll let you know it's me too. I'll tag it. But I mean that about does it, Chris. I think we're done here. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Toodaloo.
Or actually a couple weeks from now.
Yeah. Get your Christmas on. Get some gifts.
Get your Christmas on. Get gifts for your family.
Yep.
Hug people. Tell them you love them.